Hello everybody, I'm Samson from Ross IELTS Academy, joining you here today to analyse a band score of 6.5 for the mock test of speaking in IELTS. This was conducted by Ross IELTS Academy itself. Now we're going to zoom in on why the candidate got that band score and what she could have done to boost it over 7. Now, have you subscribed to our YouTube channel yet? Or you just go ahead and do that, because we've got a lot of useful videos coming your way. Now, let's have a look at part 1 of what this candidate did in her mock test.
Okay, from here we'll start the speaking test. This is the speaking test of the International English Language Testing System taking place on Thursday the 6th of August. Centre number DDE 120 and the candidate is Sabo Mazinani. The candidate number is 014132778. The examiner is Samson Sees, examiner number 443533. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
My name is Samson. Would you please tell me your full name?
My name is Sabo Mazinani.
Okay, in the first part of the exam, I will ask you some personal questions. Let's talk about shopping. Do you enjoy shopping?
I love shopping as a woman, and most of the time I prefer to spend my free time shopping centers, of course.
Okay, and how often do you go shopping and what do you buy?
Most of the time at weekends with my friends, and I prefer buy clothes, especially shoes and cosmetics.
So, do you prefer to go shopping
Alone or with other people, and why?
It depends. I'm a person who buy all the things easily, but if I don't know, my friends are really picky and streaky, okay, I prefer do it alone by myself.
Okay, I'd like to move on and ask you some questions about food. What is your favorite food and why?
My favorite food is kebab and Iranian food, and because I love barbecue, it's really enjoyable for me.
And what kind of restaurants do you like to eat out at?
I usually go to traditional restaurants with my family and my friends, and we order kebab there. And there are specific restaurants that most of the time we frequent.
Okay, and what would your perfect meal be?
Sultani. The portion is it's a large portion of kebab with a lot of, I don't know, salad, olive, onion, and it's really enjoyable for me.
Okay, I'd like to talk now about your hobbies. Tell me about any hobbies you have.
I'm a movie buffer, and at weekends I prefer to watch movies, especially French series and French movies, and then I follow American series.
Right. Are there any hobbies you would like to have in the future?
I really like to organize a program for going to hiking and going to mountain in the future, I hope.
Okay. Do you think hobbies should be relaxing or should they be exciting, and why?
According to my personality, I love the activities, exciting activities that are full of adventure and excitement. That's why I follow traveling. I travel with my friends, especially to new places.
Explain one of these travels for me.
I remember last summer, my friend and I, we went to Filband and we did bungee jumping there. It was amazing and I will never forget that day.
Okay, well that is the end of part 1.
So, how was it? What did you think of her performance? So that was part 1 of the IELTS speaking test. Now, I was asking her some short questions and she was responding with short answers, which she could have extended to improve her band score, especially with the criteria of vocabulary and grammatical range. Now, let's have a look at those criteria and add up her band score. So we're looking at a fluency of 7, vocabulary 6, grammar 6, pronunciation 7, so the overall band score comes to 6.5. Okay, now we're going to do something very interesting. We're going to boost Sabor's band score to 7. How are we going to do that? Well, all she needs to do is improve her grammar and bring that up to a 7, and also her vocabulary. So if she worked on these two, she would have got 7 in those two criteria, therefore a band score of 7. So let's have a look at Sabor's fluency and coherence. So she got a 7 in that because she was pretty coherent, speaking fairly naturally and keeping her flow of speech. She did have a few hesitations here and there, but that was content-related hesitation as opposed to language-related hesitation. Now, what are the difference between these two? Well, language-related hesitation means that you're struggling to find words and put sentences together. It's related to the language hesitations. Content-related hesitations is not so bad. You will not get marked down for content-related hesitations. It just means that you pause for a little bit and maybe struggle to look for an idea. Now, most importantly, Sabor did use a range of connectives and discourse markers, which was very good for her fluency and coherence. But there could have been a little bit more of that. See, she kept repeating the words "and," "so," "because," although she did say "that's why" once, which is a very effective connective to use. So only if she extended that and used a bit more of those connectives, she could have even boosted her fluency and coherence to an 8. Right, let's check out her lexical resource. That's vocabulary, which she got a 6 in, and she could easily boost that to a 7. So she was using some collocations and related words when she was talking about food, shopping, and hobbies. Let's have a look. She was saying things like free time, shopping center, picky, and streaky friends, traditional restaurants, a large portion, and follow series. However, some of those related words were inappropriate. Now, instead of saying, "I really like to organize a program to go hiking," she could say, "I really like to plan for a hike to go hiking." Now, the problem here is that she didn't use much idiomatic vocabulary or collocations. So what I'm going to do now is paraphrase some of her exact same answers so she could get a 7 in vocabulary. Let's have a look. So here's the question. What kinds of restaurants do you like to eat out at? And her answer, "I usually like to go to traditional restaurants with my family and my friends, and we order kebab there. And there are specific restaurants that most of the time we frequent." Now here's my answer. "I usually like to eat out at traditional restaurants with my family and friends where we can order kebab." I can say there is a number of specific restaurants that we frequently eat out at. The reason I choose such restaurants is because I have a healthy appetite and I can find a variety of nourishing meals there. Here's another question. Are there any hobbies you would like to have in future? Her answer was, "I really like to organize a program for going to hiking and going to mountain in the future, I hope." And here's my answer. "I really like to plan for a hike and go to the mountains in the future, for which I will need to cut back on my hours. I believe a little change of scenery would give me a much better feeling since I am fed up with my work. For that reason, I would choose hiking as a future hobby." Right, so if we're talking about her grammar, she got 6 in that. She was using a mixture of simple and complex structures with her grammar, and she was actually struggling more with the complex ones. Now, Here's what she did, for example. She said, I am a person who buy all the things easily. What she should have said was, I am a person who buys everything easily. She said this, which was incorrect. There are specific restaurants that most of the time frequent. And what she should have said here was, there are specific restaurants that we frequently go to. Unfortunately, she also had some other grammatical errors, like singular, plural, verb to infinitive. Let's have a look at those. So she said, I prefer to spend my free time shopping centres. Here's what she should have said. I prefer to spend my free time in shopping centres. And these errors just continue. I prefer buy clothes. It should have been I prefer to buy clothes. Here's another one. If my friends are picky, I prefer do it alone. She should have said this. If my friends are picky, I prefer to do it alone. It continues. Here we go. I go to traditional restaurant. She should have said, I go to traditional restaurants. One more mistake here. She said, my friend and I, we went to field band. Here's what she should have said. My friend and I went to field band. So only if she used more conditional sentences, more subordinate clauses, conjunctions, and connectives, she could have got a 7 in her grammatical range and accuracy. So Saba got a 7 in her pronunciation because she used a range of pronunciation features. So she was clear to understand, and she was able to link up some words to create better fluency. She also sounded fairly conversational and her intonation was okay. But she did have one error with the word adventure. So she stressed the syllable at the beginning. She said adventure instead of adventure. So the stress has to come on the second syllable. That's it. So everybody, as you see, this candidate could have easily boosted her band score to 7 or over if she used more collocations and elaborated more on her answers and not making so many mistakes in the grammar section. Now we'll have a quick look at what this candidate did in the part 2 of speaking. Then we're going to help her to see what she could have done to improve that. Let's have a look.
I'm going to give you a topic and I'd like you to talk about it for 1 to 2 minutes. Before you talk, you'll have 1 minute to think about what you're going to say, and you can make notes if you wish. Sure. Do you understand?
Yes.
Okay. Here's some paper and a pencil.
Thank you, sir.
And here is your topic.
Okay.
You now have 1 minute to make notes.
Okay.
Okay, that's the end of your
Sure.
1 minute making notes. So you may start speaking now.
Okay, I'm French teacher, and last year I participated in a course that the professor was one of my university professor. It was a course for teaching to kids and adults. I really found this course I got lots of things about a new method of teaching, especially teaching grammar and different part of vocabularies. And from then, I can say I can see how my students now they are developing. And thanks God, now I can be in touch with my professor because whenever I face a problem in teaching, I can take his advice. And why you didn't enjoy it? And there were some parts of this course they were tiring for me. Like I don't know, doing the exercises, writing essays. I prefer to have a dynamic class with my students. So I prefer some, especially group work. That's why writing individually makes me tired, and I don't recommend it to my students most of the time.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So did you see that? Saba actually spoke for the 2 minutes. That's very important. In the cue card, when you're timed for the 2 minutes, it's very important to go on until the very end. So, if you haven't watched our previous videos, we're analysing Saba's overall band score, which is 6.5. So we have the 4 criteria here. Fluency, she got 7. Vocabulary, 6. Grammar, 6. Pronunciation, 7. So her overall band score is 6.5. So what we want to do now is boost Saba's overall band score to a 7. What she needs to do is improve her grammar and make that a 7, and her lexical resource. So the good thing Saba did here was that she spoke for the 2 minutes, which adds to her fluency and coherence. She had few self-repetition and self-corrections, which wasn't too bad, though at one point she did ask herself a question saying, why did you enjoy that? So that's not a good thing to do. You don't ask yourself questions. The examiner is the one asking you the questions. What you need to do here is refer to the question, paraphrase it, buy yourself some time so you can think of ideas and then move on with your ideas, telling your story. So if we're going to look at Saba's pronunciation, it was fairly clear and easy to understand. But she did have a few lapses with a few words like professor, essay, and develop. So what we're going to do now is see what she could do to improve her grammatical range and accuracy and vocabulary. So you can see on the screen there, that's Saba's cue card, followed by her answer. Now, using her command of English, I'm going to give you my answer in the way she was speaking, but with a few corrections. So here we go. So here's my answer using her own words with a few modifications. Here we go. I want to talk about a course that I took which really helped me in my job. As I am a French teacher, last year I participated in a course that the instructor was one of my university professors. It was a course about teaching to kids and adults. I really found this course practical as a teacher because there I got lots of things about a new method of teaching, especially teaching grammar and different parts of vocabulary, and from then on I could see the development in my students' performance. Besides, I'm thrilled to be in touch with my professor because whenever I face a problem in teaching, I can take his advice. In addition to all the good things about this course, there were some parts I didn't really enjoy. As an example, I can mention some activities like doing the exercises and writing essays. Since I prefer to have a dynamic class with my students, I prefer some group work. That's why writing individually makes me exhausted, and I don't recommend it to my students whatsoever. So everyone, as you can see, I didn't do much. It was the candidate speaking for 2 minutes on the cue card. Now, only if she had used some more boosters, didn't have so many grammatical problems, and improved her vocabulary, she could have easily gone over the 7 band score. Now, we're going to look into part 3 of what this candidate did when she was in her speaking test. Then we're going to analyze it and see what she could have done to improve that. Let's have a look. Okay, let's move on to part 3. So we've been talking about a course you have done that you found useful, and I'd now like to ask you some questions related to this. Okay, first let's consider homework. Do you think it is important that children are given homework?
For all the subjects, no, because that would be tiring for them. First, they must, do different activities by their hands, and they should try to explore the things. Just writing down lots of, homeworks and boards, they don't have any benefits for them, especially for the future. They must know how to work, how to be a person that can, do something perfectly. But writing down, that would be something new, maybe.
Okay. How much homework should they be given?
It depends the subject. For example, for learning a new language, okay, in some parts, okay, writing is necessary. But after that, I prefer communicating, discovering new things, talking, traveling, exploring the things, but not just writing.
Okay, and do you think parents should help their children with their homework, or should it be done alone?
Of course, parents must help, should help if they can, especially nowadays. The educational system, it's more difficult nowadays because there are lots of changes. And maybe children at a school, they cannot understand the course easily. And a mom or a dad in the atmosphere of home can help their children much better.
Right. So now we'll discuss the relationship between education and work. How important is it to have a university education to get a job in your country?
In my country, okay. Unfortunately, most of people, they are not in right places. Their university degrees and what they do, most of the time, they are really far from each other. But according to, social opinion, children are forced to go to university, and it's not useful all the time, because it's a waste of time. Instead of going to university and spending time 4 years, spending money, wasting time, okay, I prefer learning a kind of skills can be more useful.
Okay, so
and more practical.
Does having a degree from another country enhance employment opportunities in your country?
I didn't understand the question.
I'll repeat it. Does having a degree from another country enhance employment opportunities in your country?
Yes, of course, but in some situation I can say that in my country there are still some majors, they are not known, they are not known, yes, but in other countries because they are more developed, they are more developed, and there are some new majors which are added to universities, but in Iran, yes, they are not still, they are unknown. But in some cases, yes, especially medical situation. In medical situation, yes, it's really useful that we have some students who studied abroad and now they work here.
Okay. What impacts do students who have studied abroad have on their country of origin when they come home?
First of all, we can mention impacts of culture. when a person who is studied there, of course, by coming back to their country, they are not just the knowledge which is come back to the country, the culture, maybe new traditions are added, especially in the atmosphere of family and the people around he or her, and it can have a positive effect and negative effect, and it depends the society. Are these changes are acceptable in the society or not?
Okay, thank you very much. That
You're
is the end of
welcome.
the test.
So that was Saba's performance part 3 in the IELTS speaking mock test. Now, did you see how it goes? Basically, the examiner asks more challenging, longer questions, which you need to express ideas for. So you would need to have longer answers, provide explanations, and elaborate more on your answers. Now, everybody, if you didn't see the previous video of Saba talking in part 2, the cue card, you can pause this clip, go back and look at that, and then come back to this one. All right, so Saba's final band score, her overall band score was 6.5, and we want to give that a boost and help her so she could get a 7 or above. So let's have a look at her overall band score and the 4 criteria. So here we go. Fluency and coherence, she got a 7. For vocabulary, 6. Grammar, 6. Pronunciation, 7. So her overall band score ends up being 6.5. All right, so let's have a look at what Saba did in the fluency coherence of part 3. So she was keeping her flow of speech and she didn't really hesitate much. She sounded pretty natural and she had a few self-repetitions and self-corrections, but not frequent. What I would say she was doing a little bit wrong would be she was speaking too fast. She could have slowed down and she would have had less errors. It's very important to control the speed of your speech. Also, she could have used a few more boosters when starting her answers. So she could have said things like, I believe that if I were to answer this question, I would say. Right, now in part 3 of the IELTS speaking mock test that Saba gave, let's have a look at her lexical resource. Now, she got a 6 in this criteria because she could have used a much wider range of vocabulary. Now, how could she have done that? She could have gone off topic and then used some of the vocabulary she was more comfortable with, given the topic that she would be more comfortable talking about. That's how she could have improved it. So let's have a look at an example to see what Saba could have done. So if I was going to ask such a question and say, does having a degree from another country enhance employment opportunities in your country? She could expand her answer by going off the topic like this. To answer this question, I should say absolutely yes. My home country is a place where people are given status by their education. Besides, parents also invest a lot of money in their kids' education because they think this is the best way to build their future. This is why I believe students can study in other countries to learn the skills that don't exist in their own country to get better job offers. For instance, many university students who study in medical fields go on exchange programs to get better job opportunities in the future. Right, now let's talk about Saba's grammatical range and accuracy. So in this criteria, she got a 6, and that could have easily been boosted to a 7, and here's why. Basically, she could have used slightly more complex structures in her grammar. Another thing is she had little errors, very simple errors that are easy to fix, and we're going to have a look at some examples of those errors and correct her. So here we go. Here's the example. She said, most of people, they are not in right places. She should have said, most people are not in the right place. Here's another error. In my country, there are some majors, they are not known. This would have been correct. In my country, there are some majors that are not known. Another mistake she made. We have some students who studied abroad. She should have said this. We have some students who have studied abroad. Last but not least, Saba's pronunciation in part 3. So she was fairly coherent and clear to understand. The problem in this part was that she had a few mispronunciations. For example, she didn't really pronounce the ends of her expressions. So she said, in some situation, instead of in some situations. So she should have said the end of that word. And she mispronounced a few words here and there, a few lapses. So there was abroad, developed, stuff like that. There you have it. We analysed a 6.5 candidate in the mock test of speaking IELTS. Now, she wasn't so bad. I mean, she was coherent enough to keep going. All she needed to do was use those boosters, avoid those grammatical errors, and sometimes go off topic. You see, it's okay to go off topic, to just keep going and continue with your ideas. It's all right to go off topic. Now, definitely, if you're interested in our courses, go onto our website. That's www.rossielts.com. There you have the bronze package, the silver, and the elaborate VIP. I hope you found this video and all the other videos, how we analyze this candidate, useful. You can see the full test of what we did with her. I hope you found it all very informative. Anyway, I'll see you next time.